Good evening. What if you got into legal trouble simply because someone with whom you hang out started having odd spasms? Today, we're diving back into the 17th century to take a look at Salem, Massachusetts. So grab yourself a nice cup of coffee or your preferred beverage, and let's get underway. Back in the 1600s, New England was mostly being settled by Christians who were fleeing the religious regulations in England. The Massachusetts Bay Colony was being settled mostly by Puritans, who wanted to create a haven in which everything would be pure and governed by the Bible's teachings. Salem Village, which is modern-day Danvers, Massachusetts, was founded specifically for this reason. In February of 1692, strange things began to happen to two girls of Salem Village. Reverend Samuel Parris's 9-year-old daughter, Betty Parris, and his 11-year-old niece, Abigail Williams, began to have fits. According to eyewitness accounts, the fits included screaming, throwing things, making unusual sounds, crawling under furniture, and contortion into odd positions. The girls also complained about feeling like they had been pricked. Doctors couldn't find any ailments in the girls. As time went on, more girls in the village began to show similar afflictions. People had been accused and even executed for claimed witchcraft in New England for many years before Salem. The earliest case of witchcraft-related execution was in 1647 in Connecticut. Before the events of Betty Parris and Abigail Williams, rumors of witchcraft in villages near Salem had been circulating. The pastor of Boston's North Church, named Cotton Mather, published books and pamphlets. Mather became well known in northern Massachusetts, which allowed his messages to be spread. In 1689, he published a book in which he claimed to have observed John Goodwin's children's afflictions and blamed them on witchcraft, thus causing many to be paranoid about witchcraft in Massachusetts. Being that Salem was trying to be pure, any accounts of witchcraft were taken very seriously. At first, 3 women were accused of being witches and afflicting the girls and others: Sarah Goode, Sarah Osborne, and Tituba. Sarah Goode was a known beggar in the village. She often asked for food and shelter from neighbors. Sarah Osborne didn't go to church very often and had married an indentured servant after her first marriage ended, which the citizens of Salem saw as her trying to change her son's inheritance. Tituba was a slave from Barbados, who had been accused of telling young girls stories from Malleus Maleficarum. These stories often included sexual encounters with demons, enchantments, and mind control, all things with which Puritans did not agree. It is now believed that these 3 were accused due to being outcasts. Many others would be accused of witchcraft as time went on, including Martha Corey, who was a very pious and dedicated member of the church, Rebecca Nurse, also a very pious and benevolent member of the church, and 4-year-old Dorothy Goode, the daughter of Sarah Goode. The accusations of Martha Corey and Rebecca Nurse caused paranoia in the community. At first, the accused witches were brought before the local magistrates who interrogated the accused for several days before sending them to jail. However, beginning June 2, 1692, the Court of Oyer and Terminer decided the cases. There were 62 people being held on charges of witchcraft when the Court of Oyer and Terminer took over. The Court of Oyer and Terminer indicted many and found many guilty. Most of the executions from the witch trials were pronounced by the Court of Oyer and Terminer. The Court of Oyer and Terminer continued hearing cases until October 29, 1692, when it was dissolved due to the disapproval of the outcome of the trials. By this point, many were beginning to believe that the accusations were being exaggerated. In January 1693, the Superior Court of Judicature convened in Salem to try the cases of 5 who were indicted but not tried in the previous September. In contrast to the Court of Oyer and Terminer, which found many guilty and executed many, the Superior Court only found 3 people guilty, who were later excused, and did not pronounce any executions. The trials were concluded in May 1693, when the Superior Court found the 5 remaining accused not guilty. The Salem witch trials caused the death of 25 people, with 20 by execution. 19 people were hanged, and 5 people died in jail. One man died from peine forte et dure, a type of torture in which a defendant who refused to plead would have heavier and heavier rocks placed on his chest until he either pled or died. The Salem witch trials were a product of the desire to maintain a pure community, a result of paranoia, and a great example of early mass hysteria in America.